Hello and welcome to UC Trends 2022. I'm Tom Wright from UC Today, and in this annual series, we speak to senior execs from some of the leading UC and collaboration vendors and get their thoughts on what trends they expect to really take off over the coming few months. We'll also have a bit of fun with them after when we put them through our quickfire questions. Stay tuned for UC Trends 2022. So it's great to have you. And we're going to be looking at some of the trends that you're seeing in the industry at the moment. But to start with, could you give us an idea of how you got into the UC industry and went on to become sort of the leader of Poly's EMEA business?
Yeah, it's a long history actually. I started off in the communication space, actually as a technical marketeer back in the late 80s and early 90s. And it was kind of an interesting time then because the communications industry was actually going through significant change. Majority of it was about building infrastructure. Of course, a lot of what we do now requires a lot of bandwidth, and that started back in the very early 90s. Of course, the other trend that happened back then was the evolution and then the rapid growth of the mobile phone industry. And what that meant was people were starting to become more mobile. And then the other thing that was happening way back then was, get this, CTI. People remember that. Computer telephony integration. There was talks about, moving from traditional telephones to, using your PC and devices like that. So there was a whole industry of movement going on. And I was there at the start with the semiconductor industry. Really, really fantastic, really, really interesting. Nothing to do with Poly at that phase, but I knew that communications and collaborations were going to go through some incredible change, and I wanted to be a part of it. It's actually why I joined Poly back in the 90s, because Poly back then was in that market, was doing supplying devices for the contact center industry, the customer service industry, but was responding to the changes in the market and could see that people were becoming more mobile and were going to be collaborating more, although that word typically wasn't used back then. And I was recruited to come into the European business and help chart some of that evolution. I originally started off as a marketing guy. I set up and ran all of Poly's international marketing operations through the 90s. But moved into running product management, product strategy, ultimately moving into managing parts of our sales organization in the mid-noughties. And then in 2016, I took over managing the whole of Poly and EMEA, and it's been a really exciting time.
So it's been a busy time for the industry over the last couple of years, and a lot of innovation coming out. A lot of it also demanded by the customer as well. So are there any real big trends that you think have kind of taken the industry or grabbed a hold of the industry over the last 12 months?
Well, what's been interesting is, 18 months ago, the world changed. Companies basically closed their doors and sent their employees home. And what was staggering was just how quickly people got used to working from their home offices. There really weren't any technological issues stopping that happening. It really was a culture of company and a culture of work. Over the last 12 months, organizations, as we've all got vaccinated, we've all become comfortable in this new world, organizations have been trying to get people to come back into the office. And that's been the biggest change is, well, how do you facilitate that? Enable people to be the best of who they can be, recognizing that they may not be in the office now every day of the week. In fact, recent research that we've done suggests that 80% of people want to work from home at least one day per week. So businesses are trying to figure that through. What essentially that they're doing, though, is that they're enabling their offices as more flexible workspaces, putting in place video technology, and it's happening in multiple levels. Some companies are opening their doors, they're putting in some video equipment and saying you can come back. There's other companies that are saying, no, we're going to make sure that we video enable the whole of the company. And so, frankly, open spaces as well as closed meeting rooms becoming video enabled. But then you have a wealth of companies that are thinking this is a phenomenal change in the way that we work. Hybrid working has changed. It's a paradigm shift in modern working practices. And therefore, we need to think what that means for the people, what it means for the spaces that they work in, and also how can we use the technology. And technology has a fantastic part to play in enabling that equality of work experience that people are looking for when they come back into the office, but also, incidentally, also have some element of working from home as well. So great change happening now, and that's going to be happening at an accelerated pace all through next year, I anticipate.
And it's been another big year for Poly as well, and you won 2 awards at the UC Awards. They were Best Endpoint Product and Best Work From Home Products. So congratulations for that. Are there any kind of real highlights for you for the last 12 months? Anything you'd really pick out as being a great moment?
There are so many exciting points in the last 12 months in Poly's history. The first one I have to say is how we have embraced new modern work practices within our company. Our offices aren't fully open, but we have got some offices where people can come in, and when they do, we're using the technology that in part we're making ourselves to enable an equality of work experience. But the other thing that we did pretty interestingly was when we saw people were now working from home, we pivoted our development focus, and where historically people had seen Poly from a videos perspective as doing room-based systems, we moved to being a vendor of, as well as room-based systems, personal video systems, and the webcam, the P5, incredibly successful. The P15, which is a studio product, it's a video bar that you stick on top of your monitor, and it essentially turns your computer monitor into an immersive video experience. It's absolutely phenomenal, and of course, other products in the range as well. And a testament to how well those are. Those received awards from UC earlier this year, recognising the best endpoint products in the industry. The other thing that we're known for is headset devices, and headsets are very personal. Back in the early days, Poly was one of the first manufacturers of Bluetooth headsets, and we've led the charge in that industry for many years. One of the most successful products that we launched was a Voyager Focus, and then this year we launched the next generation of the Voyager Focus, the Voyager Focus 2, imaginatively named, because then people know what they're going to get. Outstanding audio quality that they've come to experience with the Voyager Focus, only better now because the algorithms have changed to accommodate better and flexible working in open plan environments, allowing people to work on the go or in their home offices. Incredibly comfortable devices, and once again another product that was recognised in the UC Awards. So a couple of standout examples there of how we've responded to changes within the marketplace.
And for my final question, I want to ask you to look into the future a little bit, which certainly isn't easy at the moment and hasn't been for the last couple of years. But are there any trends that you expect to really see accelerate in 2022?
Absolutely. We're going to see that some businesses talk about needing all the staff coming back into the office. That's not going to happen on a long-term basis. What we're going to see happening next year is organizations wholeheartedly embracing hybrid and flexible working practice. Hybrid working because in the fight for talent, that's what people want. So organizations are going to have to respond to that. We've recently done some research. We've just published a paper called The Evolution of the Workplace. And in that, we've undertaken research with more than 7,000 hybrid workers around the EMEA region. And what they've been telling us is that 9 to 5 working is dead. 70% more or less of those people say that we're now moved to anytime working. Huge flexibilities to individuals, empowering them to make choice when they work and when they don't work. And businesses are going to have to respond to that. We're also seeing that there's a cry out for equality of access. So as we collaborate more and more, coming into the office or working from home, you're going to have the technology that supports that to enable people to essentially contribute, collaborate, and get value from interactions, no matter where they are. The other thing that we're seeing is, people were pretty intolerant of noise in an office before. Now they've been at home, they've worked for a while in their own environments, and they've managed the environment, managing the noise in there. They're anticipating they're going to be incredibly intolerant in the modern workplace now of noise made by others. So organizations are having to think about not just the physical design of the offices, but also the technology that they put into the offices to manage that noise environment for their associates. So there's some big trends that we see happening there. The final thing that's worth mentioning about way of a trend is kind of interesting, I think, is we've all gone casual. We've all got used to, in the last 12 or 18 months, choosing how we dress for work. So it's not we're going to see people turning up in leggings or shorts or even potentially pajamas into the office, but we are going to see a more casual attire in the office. And that's a good thing, because we should allow people to be who they truly are.
So it sounds like there's still a lot to look forward to then, even after such a period of phenomenal innovation. Paul, it's been great to have you. Thanks so much for talking us through all that. So if you're ready, Paul, we'll put you through the quickfire questions now and hopefully get to know you a bit more as a person.
Okay, fire away.
Okay, so first question, describe yourself in 3 words.
Energetic, analytical, parsimonious.
That's an interesting one. What's your favourite band or singer?
Genesis, the early years, and I haven't really moved on from them.
What was your first job?
My very first job was delivering newspapers when I was a young boy at school. My first career job was electronics design engineer, designing head-up displays for fighter aircraft.
Wow, that sounds amazing.
It was great fun. Absolutely fantastic.
What movie would you say you've seen the most?
If it was just me, it would be National Lampoon's Animal House. That shows my age, doesn't it? But it's not just me, I have to be truthful. The movie I've probably seen most is The Sound of Music, because it's my wife's favourite.
What's your favourite cuisine?
The food I like best is British food, and my favourite meal is fish and chips. Absolutely love it.
Definitely a classic. What's your morning routine before work?
I get up, shower in the morning, then I take my 2 dogs for a walk. I have 2 miniature long-haired dachshunds, so I take them for a walk, bring them back, and then I'm in the office. So that's me.
Tell us a surprising fact about yourself.
Surprising fact about me, I'm an identical twin, and even at this age, we're still identical looking.
Do you ever sub in and out for each other when one of you doesn't fancy going to work?
Actually, there are some stories about girlfriends younger, but I'm not gonna record them on here. So work-wise, no.
Okay, if you could live in another country, what would it be and why?
Oh, it'd be France. Great food, great wine, great weather. What's not to like?
Can't really argue with that. Your next question, What's the most inspirational book you've ever read and why?
I'm going to show my age here. The most inspirational book I ever read was Troubleshooter by Sir John Harvey Jones. Actually, it was based on a TV series. Phenomenal guy. Used to head up ICI, and he used to go around, one of these guys that used to go around and look at businesses and try and help them out of some troubles that they had. And I loved it because when I watched it then, I was pretty young in my business career, but what he said was absolute sense, and it inspired me to go, I could do that. And it inspired me to approach business the way he thought about it. Step back, think about it, look at what you're seeing, and then act.
What's your favourite pastime or hobby?
Playing the guitar. I'm self-taught, so I'm not very good, but I actually have 6 guitars because you get to my age and you can. And it's a fantastic way to relax. I just sit and noodle away myself. Half an hour's gone, an hour's gone, and then I'm on to the next thing. It's a fantastic hobby.
This one's always one of my favourites. How would you describe your job to friends and family or people who maybe aren't in the industry that we're in?
Oh, I lead the teams that make Teams, Zoom, WebEx, Skype, whatever the application is you use. I make it real. I bring it to life with good quality audio, good quality video, fantastic services.
This is maybe one of the deeper questions in the quickfire round. What's worse, ironing or gardening?
Sadly, I actually enjoy both of them. If I was pushed, I would say probably gardening, because in the rain I hate doing it, but as I say, I enjoy both of them.
I'm terrible at both of them, so I couldn't split them either. So moving on to your next question. Imagine your house is on fire, all the family is safe, all the dogs are safe. What two objects would you grab and why?
My collection of Genesis CDs for sure, and then I'd take at least one of my guitars.
That'd be a tough decision for you, wouldn't it? 1 out of 6.
Yeah, no, yeah. Actually, I've got a nylon string guitar which I bought about 6 months ago, and that's the one I'd probably save because that's the one I play most. It's fantastic, beautiful sound.
Okay, so the next question. If you could invite anyone to dinner, living or dead, who would it be and why?
Oh, I'd invite Jeff Bezos. I think the guy is a genius, and I just would love to understand how he keeps innovating the way that he does.
Now, this is a big one for people in the industry, virtual or in-person meetings.
It's gotta be virtual. Gotta be virtual.
Okay, and if you could go back in time for one day, what event or what day would you go back to and why?
I'd go back to the 20th of July 1969 when Neil Armstrong landed on the moon and spoke those famous words, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind." I was actually 6 years old when that happened, and I can remember it, I think. Of course, you rewrite history in your mind, but I'd love to go back and just watch it again. It's such an iconic moment in all of our lives. And actually, Paulie made the headsets that he spoke those words through, so another reason to go back and listen to it one more time.
That's a cool fact, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple of questions reflecting now on maybe some of the early stages of your career. If you could give your younger self some advice, what would it be?
Look for the fun in what you do. It doesn't have to be hard work.
Short and sweet, you can't argue with that.
Yeah.
What would you say has been your biggest business mistake, and more importantly, what did you learn from it?
Yeah, I made a whopper of a business mistake probably about 20 years ago. I championed the development of a new product. We spent about $1 million on it, and just before we launched it, I killed the project. We didn't launch the product, so we lost $1 million, but slightly less than that. And the reason we did that, the reason I decided I was going to kill the project, and I had to discuss that with the chief executive at the time, was because the market had moved on. The product was not going to be a success. So pretty bold and tough thing to have done. What I learned from that was, as any clay pigeon shooter will tell you, you shoot to where the clay is going to be, not where it is. And from now on, it's all about, or from then on, excuse me, it was all about, good quality forecasting.
It must have been a brave decision to make, actually.
Yeah, it was a pretty tough one, pretty tough discussion to have with my chief executive, and he said to me, it was pretty classic actually. He said to me, "Don't worry about it. It sounds like it's a good call. I support you. I've just spent $1 million in your development." That's almost verbatim what he told me, which was fantastic.
Yeah, I guess this last question for you is kind of similar, sort of, looking into the future. What technology do you think is really going to take the UC and collaboration industry by storm?
Yeah, the thing that's going to make a big difference is AI-driven camera arrays. We've introduced those into our next generation of cameras for meeting rooms, so the X70 and the E70 products, which we've recently announced. What they do is they enable you to be able to take up a meeting room, and with the cameras in place, split up the room so that you can have two people in a room, and they're presented into a meeting as two people, as two video streams. And if you think about how people outside of the office will be participating in that meeting, they'll be sitting on their laptops. So now they're no longer disadvantaged not being in the meeting room because they're on a screen and the people in the meeting room are on a screen, and there's that equality of presentation, equality of presence, and equality of participation. That's going to change the way that hybrid working is viewed, and you're no longer going to be either a second-class citizen being at home or a second-class citizen being in the meeting room. Everyone's going to have an equal say. So that's going to be a big change, and you can see many of the UC as a service vendors looking to capture those feeds and utilize them in their technology.
Well, Paul, that was the final question from the Quickfire round. Thanks so much for giving us such thoughtful and fascinating answers.
Thank you. All right.
And thank you everyone for watching. If you enjoyed this interview, you can find more fantastic UC Trends 2022 content at uctoday.com/trends.